Chapter 28. It takes us 2 days to get to Sacramento, and when we do, I couldn't be more thrilled to get out of the van and be somewhere Izzy isn't. The van is littered with water bottles and chip bags, and it's beginning to smell distinctly road trippy. After a night spent in a campground near Ashland, sleeping back to back in the van and barely communicating beyond directions, I'm ready for a change of scenery and company. Gran meets us in the driveway, her white puffball hair like a beacon as she waves us towards the front door of their 2-story townhouse. It's painted bright turquoise, despite protests from the Homeowners Association, as she'll tell anyone who asks, with a rainbow progress flag posted above the door next to an American flag of the same size. "Oh, Steph, sweetie," she scoots me in her arms and hugs me tight. "It's been too long." She's not wrong. In the years between my early childhood spent in Sacramento and now, she's changed almost as much as I have. Her skin is looser, her wrinkles are deeper, but so is her smile. Suddenly it hits me that I haven't seen her since Mum's funeral, and even then I was too emotionally wrung out to really pay attention to anything other than my grief. It wasn't even her own flesh and blood, just her ex-daughter-in-law, but still she came and sought me out and let me cry into her blouse. "It's black, no one will notice any tear stains," she said. "That's the trick to surviving what life throws at you. You know, sensible clothing, especially shoes." I smile at the memory of how resolutely I have adopted her advice into my life. I squeeze her to my chest and whisper, "I have to pee so badly." Gran barks a laugh and points to the door. "You know where to go." I take off at a half-skip, half-run, chased by the sound of Izzy introducing herself to Gran. I know I should facilitate that sort of thing, but they're both adults. They can handle a little social awkwardness to save my poor unattended bladder. By the time I return, snaking my way through Gran's house by memory, I find them in the living room sipping Arnold Palmer's. "Steph, join us." Gran pats the Magneta and yellow sofa next to her. I cross the room, decorated in brilliant gem tones, all screaming together in the world's most intense visual harmony, and accept the offered glass with little ice cubes shaped like skulls floating in the liquid. Gran's always had eccentric taste, and I see that it hasn't ebbed at all in the years since Grandpa died. If anything, she's become more flamboyant. I spot a new addition to her decor, a taxidermy weasel by the fireplace to which she has affixed a sparkly unicorn horn. "Izzy was just telling me about your tour. How exciting. This is a much bigger deal than you led me to believe, young lady." She waggles her finger at me. I raise my eyebrows at Izzy, who catches my gaze above her drink. "Well, we are rock stars, I guess." "I was just explaining that there are a couple of talent scouts coming to our Sac and Reno gigs," Izzy says. "You remember I told you about them?" "I definitely don't remember, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't, so I just shrug. Hopefully they'll like us." "Oh, what happens if they do?" Gran turns to face Izzy, elbows propped on her knees to form a shelf for her chin. "Tell me everything." A smile inches across Izzy's face as she describes the kind of success we could find along the road. The big break that might be awaiting us at any one of the shows we'll play. Record deals, endorsements, the connections we'll make. She lights up as she speaks, and I want to share her hope, but the longer she goes on, the more I wither and dim. Eventually, I make my escape to begin unpacking our essentials from the van. It's good to move my legs, to use my muscles for something other than bracing for the next fight we'll have. I text Geordie just so I can tell someone how I'm feeling. "Fighting with Izzy again? Oh, shit. You doing okay?" "Yeah, I guess. Feeling real shitty though, but it'll pass. Always does." "You mean you always find a distraction? Roast me, why don't you?" "I swear to God, Steph, if you text me tomorrow to say you proposed, I will get on a plane to smack some sense into you." Ow, too roasty toasty. I know Geordie's joking, but the familiar prickling of his accusation rises to the surface. This pattern that Izzy and I have slipped into, where we fight and make up, then fight and make up without ever actually resolving anything, is precarious at best. I keep hoping it will get better, keep hoping we'll find a way to fix whatever's broken. I know I'm trying, I know she's trying, but for some reason it doesn't feel like we're really trying together. And maybe that's it. That's what's broken. Before I can get too deep into my feelings, Gran reappears on the doorstep, barefoot and showing off a tarnished toe ring. Izzy's gone upstairs to take a little nap, poor thing. You really should offer to drive part of the way. I sigh and sink down onto the lawn, a wild patch of clover next to her neighbour's perfectly manicured grass. She won't let me, Gran. Izzy likes to be behind the wheel. Ah, I see. Gran joins me, settling beside a statue of a gnome in a strawberry hat. She pats the gnome on the head as if in greeting, then says, "Would you say she's driven?" The joke comes out of nowhere and I bark a laugh. Gran, well, someone has to say it, and Tobias isn't around anymore. Grandpa's name spills so effortlessly from her lips and my shoulders tense a little. It's okay, she says. He's been gone a long time. Longer than Mum is what she doesn't say, but still, not by that much. I feel so small beside her. This woman who can laugh and joke in the face of loss, and maybe we're actually similar that way, because that's what I do most of the time. Optimism is how I've made it as far as I have, but sometimes it feels real and sometimes it feels more like a mask. How do you do it? I ask after a short pause. How do you carry on after? Practice, sweetie. It's all practice. She gives me a smile so bright I almost miss the sadness layered underneath. When your grandpa died, I was a lot younger than I thought I'd be. A bit like you with your mum. It's hard to lose people before we're ready, and we're rarely ever ready. But it gets easier with time. I nod, a tightness rising in my throat. Don't you worry about them. Losing their memory, like if you let go of grief and you'll let go of them too? No, not at all. Graham reaches for my hand and lays it palm up between both of hers, like a little hand sandwich. Learning how to love someone who's gone is like learning how to ride a bike. It's all a balancing act, and if you try to hop on the pedal right after, you'll wipe out on the pavement. Grief is kind of like training wheels. At first you can't even think about those you've lost without the grief. You need it because you have to process the loss, but eventually you'll be able to think about them and miss them and honor them without it. Yeah? I choke out the word, unable to reach for more with my voice. Yeah, she nods. Of course. It helps to have an absolutely sterling sense of humor like I do. Of course, a chuckle ripples through my chest painfully. You ever tried stand-up? Please, with my bad hip, more like sit-downs. She lets go of my hand and instead wraps an arm around my shoulder. It also helps to have people you love around you. I wince. Wish we lived closer sometimes. Oh, I don't mean to make you feel guilty, really. I've got people here. You sure? I mean, you have more than just like bridge club or whatever, right? Bridge club? What do you take me for? Graham fixes me with a dead-eyed stare. Me and the girls are far more interesting than that. Lois organized a ballroom dancing night for us last week, and every Tuesday we get together to call our elected representatives about whatever new poppycock that idiot-in-chief is saying. Gran, I lean back and survey her through new eyes. What, you thought I wasn't cool? I have to laugh at that. No way, with lawn decor like this, how could you be anything but? I point to a couple of plastic flamingos dressed in handmade cowboy hats and fringed vests. That's right, she jabs a thumb into her chest. We're going to be the most punk rock grannies at your show. I don't point out that she and her friends will probably be the only grannies there instead. I lean my head on her shoulder and take a deep breath, letting her energy fill my lungs. I'm glad you've got her, Grant says. It takes me a minute to realize who she means. Who, Izzy? She's a lovely girl, focused, lots of energy and passion. Grant nods as though agreeing with herself. Yes, you found a good one. I like her. She holds out her hand and beckons me. Now help an old lady get back up. My back's not what it used to be. I scramble to my feet and help her stand. It's not lost on me that she was there for me when I was just a toddle thing, probably helping me back up time and time again. She's not Mum, but she's family, and it's nice that she likes Izzy. As we make our way inside, Dad's words echo in my head. It's a lot more important that you like her, and I don't know, maybe it's just exhaustion from the road trip or fatigue from our fight, but while I'm pretty sure I love Izzy, I'm not sure if I like her anymore, and that would be a lot easier to swallow if Gran didn't either. We say goodbye to Gran and her quirky and her quirky California home in the early morning after the show at the Junkyard Music Hall. I barely have time to wipe the smudged eyeliner from my face before Izzy's handing me a power bar and an iced coffee for the road. It was a good show, I can tell, because Izzy is all smiles as we pull out of the driveway despite the lack of sleep. She chatters about some guy named Gray, who I gather is a talent agent or something. It's the happiest I've seen her in a while, and I resolve to be happy too. It's easier said than done though, as our show in Reno is packed to the brim with strangers. It's not the first time we've played for a crowd of people we don't know, but it's disorienting to be on stage with no face in the audience to ground me. My eyes keep flickering to Izzy, who never once catches my gaze. She stands centered on stage under purple and white lights like some kind of punk fairy princess in a metallic blue dress. I'm reminded so strongly of the first time I saw her play, her overpowering stage presence that entranced me so effortlessly. Back then I was just some girl in the crowd. Now I'm on stage behind her, laying down a rhythm for her melody. But somehow this is the most I've ever felt like a spectator. It feels like only minutes passed between leaving the stage at Sam's Saloon in Reno to climbing up behind the drums again at Atomic Decay in Salt Lake City. It's the longest It's the longest drive we've had yet, but I can't really remember much of it except flashes of landscape and billboards. Izzy's voice blends into the vibration of the van against pavement as she talks herself in circles about the order of songs in our set and whether we should open with or end with Riot Pride at the next stop. I focus on the music instead, looping through our songs in my head as we drive. I want to play a good show for all the people who come out to see us. I want to play a good show for Izzy, the one constant whose opinion I really care about. We take the stage to an uproar of applause that never seems to cease throughout our set. I see rainbow flags everywhere, like it's Pride all over again. The energy of the crowd is hypnotic as Izzy tells jokes and shares anecdotes about each song. I chime in like we practice, but even our stage banter feels more performance than playful. After Riot Pride, cheering engulfs us. It's our last song, and judging from the pride flags thrust into the air, I can tell the crowd really love it. "Thank you so much, Reno," I shout into my mic. There's a dip in the applause, and Izzy laughs awkwardly, the sound reverberating throughout the venue. She means Salt Lake City. All my muscles go taut as I look out the room, so similar to the last we played I can barely tell the difference. Salem, Sacramento, Reno, Salt Lake City, same songs. Oh, that'd be embarrassing. Different towns. Tour life, right? I say nervously. Can you tell we haven't been sleeping much? There's an uncomfortable silence after I speak, in which I contemplate what the punishment is for musicians who shout out the wrong city. There's a whoop from the back of the crowd and someone yells, "Love wins." The tension releases in ripples as people laugh and wolf whistle. And even though they're incorrectly pinpointed the reason for my insomnia, Izzy seems to relax a little too. At least she always gets my name right, and that's really what counts, she says with a chuckle. But as we leave the stage, the light in her eyes goes out, and all that's left is a dull annoyance. "Good save," I murmur under my breath. "Yeah, could have been worse." Izzy unhooks the strap and hands her guitar to me. "If you're that tired, maybe you should get some sleep while I meet with the record label guys on my own." I shrug and watch her disappear into the crowd, but my stomach does a complicated twisty dive, the kind that makes me almost seasick to watch during the Olympics, because, yeah, I don't really want to meet with record label guys. That's way more Izzy's realm than mine. Still, I don't feel like going back to the van on my own. I finish dismantling my drum kit on my own instead. It's not exactly easy work, but it's soothing in a way. Gives my hands something to do while my mind spins. By the time I'm done, there's still a decent crowd dancing to a pre-selected playlist that's a mix of top 40 and classic rock. I scan the room for Izzy, but I don't see her, so I make my way to the bar and order a cider. The bartender slides my drink to me without a word, and I glance at the people around me. There's a couple in low conversation to my right, and a group of older women in artfully ripped t-shirts and bandanas. Everyone is chatting and laughing and dancing. I feel so small and slow, like I'm falling through thick honey. When I can see the bottom of my glass, I hesitate. I could order another. The rhythm from the speakers lures me into a comfortable dissociation, and I kind of like sitting here in the dark where no one is looking at me, where no one is expecting a performance. But when the bartender asks me if I'd like a refill, I shake my head. I'm surrounded by people, but I've never felt more alone. This is how we always do things after a show, separately. But I usually have Geordie and Ollie with me, or the high seas to keep me company. Now all I have is this cider that tastes more bitter than sweet on my tongue. I pay for my drink and make my way through the crowd. I cast a curious glance around for Izzy and spot her at a cursory glance around for Izzy and spot her at the corner table with a couple of people. They must be the people from the label. I don't want to bug her, especially not while she's working so hard for our future. So I slip out the side door, silent as a shadow. Outside, the Salt Lake City night is sharp with cold. I climb into the back of the van and fumble for a sweatshirt in the dark. My hand presses over a sticky candy wrapper and a pile of dirty laundry before I find the soft fabric of one of Izzy's cardigans. I stick my arms through the holes, barely caring that I've put it on upside down. Even though it's freezing, I can't bring myself to stay inside. The scent of leftover drive-through food mingles in the air with my own sweat, and I feel like I'm in the world's worst smelling hotbox. I'm sitting on the cold concrete curb, staring up at the sky when Izzy finally leaves the club. She's all smiles and excitement. I think this is going to be really good, she says, climbing into the back of the van. They've got a couple other people they're sending to our Denver show, but I think it's basically in the bag. They really like our sound, but even more, they really like us. Isn't that cool? Steph. I blink and nod. Yeah, cool. I knew this tour was going to be good for us. I don't say what I'm thinking, which is that she didn't even think the tour was a good idea in the first place. I don't say that what's good for the band might not always be good for the relationship. I don't say anything at all. Izzy reaches for my hand to pull me up into the van, but I resist. I'm not quite ready yet. Want to look at the stars for a bit? I ask, pointing up at the night sky, full of twinkling lights. I can tell you what shapes I see, and then you can tell me what constellations they actually are. No way, it's freezing out here. Izzy shivers and scoots further into the van. Besides, got to get some sleep before we head out tomorrow. Sure, right, of course. I pull my arms around my body, but I don't follow. I'll just be a few more minutes. The van door clicks and I'm alone again. I don't know how long I sit there, but eventually I'm roused from my reverie by a buzzing in my pocket. I pull out my phone to see a new message on Reddit and I smile when I see who it's from. Gabe Surdity 93. Next stop, Haven Springs. Can't wait. My chest fills with air. It feels like the first full breath I've taken in days.